Hello and welcome to Bankers.dev, episode at number 119. Chris, it's been a minute. I think for our listeners it's been like a week, but for us it's been like 3 weeks. We got some stuff to catch up on.
Yeah, it's been a while. General summer stuff plus plans and everything. Yeah, 3 weeks.
I have a quick fun fact for you about the number 119. All right. please don't give me a chance if you're listening to this and you hate the fun number facts. It's I enjoy
They've already skipped it.
They're already gone. It's fine. I was looking at the Wikipedia page for the number 119, and there was nothing super interesting about the number. So I went to the year 119 AD, and was interested that the only person that seemed to have done anything of note in the year 119 was Roman Emperor Hadrian. And I learned a little bit about the Roman Emperor Hadrian. First of all, I think it's interesting that like an entire year in our history might only have a single person that did anything of note that we know the name of. Like, do you know the name Hadrian? Does that mean anything to you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I know of it, I think, because of Hadrian's Wall, which when I was studying abroad in Oxford was a thing that my friends took a big walk on. It's like a big walk that you can take from one side of England to the other, which is kind of cool. And like the idea that like, you know, the year 119 isn't that long ago. It's like less than 2,000 years ago. And yet an entire year has just this little fragment of a thing of like, this is the only thing of note that happened the entire year. So Emperor Hadrian in this year, like went around and did some stuff, visited some things. And I thought it was interesting that he seemed to, unlike his predecessors, he was focused on like solidifying and protecting his kingdom. So did things like built Hadrian's Wall on the sort of on the border of Scotland and England to kind of shore things up, and went around and visited all his different areas and got it all together. And I was reminded of this general principle of like in life you go through these divergent and then convergent phases. Like when I'm looking for a new assistant, I explore a bunch of assistants I could be looking for, and then I find the best one and I explore exploit is the name of it. I'm not exploiting this one. I hope not. It's also called the multi-arm bandit problem, but I was reminded of that. Like it's interesting to see that this trend seemed to have continued in Roman emperors. Like it seems like a universal that Hadrian was one of the exploit, like convergent, shore up the things that we have. And then later, I think it was 2 emperors later, you get Marcus Aurelius, who like maybe because of, I don't know enough about Roman history, but it's possible that because of this more shoring up, you get one of the best emperors that's ever existed. So that's my fun fact about the number 119. All right, we're done now. You can stop skipping ahead. We're going to talk about other stuff.
Excellent.
How are you? What did you get up to in these last 3 weeks?
I'm doing all right. So I don't have an active Kaggle competition, and I don't have my master's class right now, so I've been doing my job. And like we talked about last time, you and I are both interested in losing some weight, getting healthier, and so I dove headfirst into that. So for 3 weeks, I've been learning all about nutrition and exercise and implementing things. I built a climbing wall as part of that.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah, that looks really good. Yeah.
That's stage 1 climbing wall. It's just vertical, and it's, you know, a lot of big holds and stuff. So it's for the kids as much as me, or maybe more than me. And it was also a test run to build my bigger one, which I'm planning to do. But I also completely changed my diet, and I'm getting my labs values rechecked in a few weeks. And so that was impetus for this as well. And I ended up losing 17 pounds.
In 3 weeks?
In 3 weeks.
17 pounds.
And we can talk about why that is healthy.
Let's start. I have so many things I want to ask you about. Let's start there. Because the advice that I've heard, and I'm not sure where this comes from, is that it's unhealthy to lose more than a pound or 2 a week. And 17 pounds in 3 weeks, I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty sure 2 times 3 is 6. I'm pretty sure 6 is much less than 17. Defend yourself. How is that
so
healthy?
First of all, so I'm 6'1", and about a month and a half ago, I weighed 235, which is into the obese category, which feels bad, man.
190 for me is also into the obese category. I'm 5'9".
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We were
okay,
both obese.
So that's 230 for 6'1".
Yeah.
And about 3 weeks ago when we talked last, I was about 230, so right on the edge there.
Okay.
When you're that high, it is safe to lose more than a pound or 2 a week for sure.
Okay.
people who are 600 pounds, they can lose or I was going to say 1,000 pounds. They can lose 100 pounds a month, and that seems totally safe.
Interesting.
Well, as safe as you can be at 600 pounds. But basically, the more weight you have on you, the more weight you can lose. So that's number one.
Okay. That's not a variable I consider, but that makes sense. I think I heard of a case study of someone who was morbidly obese and just didn't eat. I think they were having like water and vitamins and salt, and they didn't eat for something like 6 months or a year, and just
it was a year,
lost
300 something days.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
So that's number one. Number two is you have to consider which type of weight you're losing. So my body stores about 10 pounds of what we would call water weight, but it's fluids plus this glycogen in your liver, which is like quick access stuff. Yeah. And I know that because when I get sick, I can lose 5 or 10 pounds in just a few days, but then I gain it all right back right away. So that's not fat or muscle. That is this quick access stuff. And I just know that about my body. So during the first week, that's what I lost is about 10 pounds because that's just the quick access stuff. Since then, I've lost another 7, which is about 3.5 pounds a week. So much closer to what you've heard is healthy. And I have one of those scales that measures body fat. And I can see that most of that second and third week weight loss is body fat. So like 6 out of the 7 pounds, it marked as body fat.
Cool.
So that is my defense on why it is safe. I'm way overweight. And after the first week, it's more like 3.5 pounds a week.
Okay. You convinced me. That makes sense. Maybe I should set more ambitious goals for myself. When I was modeling this for myself, I did the same tactic that we talked about last time. I think it was last time of like breaking it down and then printing off a list of, for this date, this is my target weight. Aiming for, I think I set it for a pound a week. Yeah, because it worked out perfectly that like from where I was at 190 to get down to 170, for if you multiply the number of weeks and the number of pounds, I would finish like October 10th, and our daughter is due on October 4th. So that seemed pretty perfect.
Yeah.
So I forgot where I was going with that.
I mean, it's easier to lose pounds now, and then as you approach your ideal weight, it'll be harder and harder to lose those last pounds.
Yeah,
so maybe that's the general.
I was talking about being more ambitious. That like,
sure,
maybe it might look very different than that if it's possible to lose 17 pounds in 2 weeks. So far, I'm like right on schedule, maybe a little bit ahead, but if it's possible to lose more, maybe I'm thinking too small. I'm curious how you're thinking about nutrition. What was your diet and what's it shifted to?
Yeah, so it's completely changed. When you lose weight, you want to make sure you're getting adequate nutrition. You don't want to starve yourself, basically. So that's important. And so I'm thinking about this a few ways. The main thing is that I have lost weight before, but then I just gained it back. So the thing I started with is what can I do long term to maintain this once I'm done? And then how can I modify that to lose weight, but then also have it be my long term strategy. So this is what I came up with. First of all, I'm not a doctor, and your results may vary. My body is my body, etc. But there are a few general trends. So first, I knew that I eat 80 to 90% of my calories at home, and that's when I can completely control what I eat. The rest of the time, so when I'm at other people's houses, on holidays, even when I go out to eat, I'm marking those as free. Instead of cheat days, those are like cheat environments. So when I'm outside my house, I can do whatever I want. Inside my house, I'm going to set some strict rules for myself because that's how I know that I can follow the diet. If I have the stuff in the house, I'm going to eat it or drink it. If it's not even in the house, then I won't. And then when I go out, that's when I can have it. So that's the general rule to start. Second is no matter what diet sort of person you listen to, they all agree on a couple things. One is cut out all the ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods in general are terrible for health, and you also eat way more of them than you think. It's easy to way overeat donuts, for example, compared to anything else, for example.
What's an example of ultra-processed food that you were eating? Were you eating donuts?
No, so like cereal.
Okay.
Cereal's terrible for you. Like sugary cereal.
Yeah.
Anything with a lot of added sugar. So during my weight loss part, I'm also cutting out refined grains, so like bread, tortillas, that kind of thing. As I go to maintenance mode, I'll probably add those back in, sparingly. But during weight loss, like it's really easy to overeat bread. So stuff like that. The other thing I'm cutting out is, so anything with added sugars I would consider ultra processed. The other thing I'm cutting out is all of my Cherry Coke Zero, which I love very much. The artificial sweeteners don't bother me that much, depending on who you talk to. Maybe they're bad, maybe they're not. But I whenever I have a Cherry Coke Zero, I want something else.
Yeah.
Like like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich
Yeah,
or ice cream, or like it basically heightens up my taste receptors for sugar.
Yeah.
And so whether or not it's bad in itself, it makes me want the bad things.
Yep. I
So
found the same
cut
thing
that
with
out.
artificial sweeteners like stevia and all that. My framing of it is that it resets my threshold for the type of food that's appealing to me to be too sweet. So after I eat, after I drink what's it called? It's a stevia flavored soda. I forgot what it's called. Which in itself theoretically is fine, although it may have repercussions in gut bacteria. I'm not sure about that. After I have that, the thought of like eating a stick of celery is like the least appealing thing in the world. Like
Exactly.
I want a banana smoothie or something. That tracks.
Yep. And then I also cut out alcohol. Still allowing myself to have it out to eat or whatever, but I'm just not going to have it in the house because it does two things to me. It's just empty calories. And also, when you're a little tipsy, I think you're way more likely to eat stuff that's bad for you.
Yeah.
Like, I want alcohol and chicken wings.
Yeah.
Or a pizza. Both of which I would consider ultra processed, and so I cut out.
Can I ask what your drinking habits were before the diet?
I would have black coffee in the morning, which is fine. I still have that. Then I'd have 2 Cherry Coke Zeros at lunch, and then I would have 1 to 2 days of alcohol a week.
Okay.
So,
like wine with dinner, like a beer.
like 3 beers a night on the weekends.
Okay.
So
Makes sense. Yeah, as far as I can tell, in all the health research I've done, alcohol's probably just bad for you. I think there was one study that was talked about how red wine might be good for you because of polypropanols,
polyphenols.
Yeah, some sort of like antioxidant effect. But I think you can also just take a supplement for that, and also the like net effect of it is probably still bad.
Yes. So they went back and looked at that study. Red wine may or may not have some effect, but for any good effect you show, non-alcoholic wine shows a better effect.
Interesting.
And so it's not the alcohol, it's the grapes.
There's non-alcoholic wine's a thing? Isn't that just like Welch's grape
Yep.
juice? What's non-alcoholic wine?
So you can do grape juice. There's also non-alcoholic wine, which is different. I don't know how, but like
I've never heard of that.
they use it for like certain Jewish traditions use it for something.
Interesting.
So you can buy non-alcoholic wine.
I
There's
gotta
also
get
like
some
these designer, just like non-alcoholic beer is sort of having its heyday right now. There's non-alcoholic mixing drinks and wine that's come out. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the concept of non-alcoholic wine. I'll check that out. Okay, cool. So that's one pillar of this. Sounds like the main tenets of it are you're only being restrictive for the 90% of food that you're eating at home. You can have cheat environments. That's like when you're going out or when you're at a friend's house, and that would you consider like if they had donuts at a friend's house, are you gonna and donuts and beer? Are you gonna have donuts and beer?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm also not going to restrict myself. So if that's what they have, then I'll eat that happily.
Yeah.
But not during my weight loss part. During my weight loss portion, I want to try to restrict as much as possible just to get it done. But for 10% of my meals, even if I just had donuts and beer, well, maybe that would be bad. But like I'm not worried about the 10% of my meals. Yeah. It's the everyday stuff I'm worried about.
I think that's reasonable, and I think it's any sort of behavior change like this requires a negotiation with yourself, and setting it too strict is as dangerous as not setting it strict enough, because setting it too strict means you're going to rebel against yourself. And that sounds reasonable. Like your environment is something you can control. Controlling the groceries that are going into your house is something that you have pretty tight conscious control of when you're doing it intentionally. So aiming for, once you're in maintenance mode, to give yourself the grace of like eat however you want when you're out. That makes a lot of sense to me. Tim Ferriss has a similar philosophy on food. I think in the 4 Hour Diet, he talks about the concept of fatter days, where it's a more traditional cheat day that like he doesn't do low carb, he does slow carb, and all the same sorts of things you're saying of like no processed food, no sugar, but then 1 day a week, on I think Saturday is his day, he can just eat whatever he wants, and then he might fast the next day to like counteract what he just did. So
fasting is common. Yeah, go ahead.
Same sort of concept of like give yourself it's a negotiation. Do what you need to do so that you don't rebel against the framework that you wanted to set up. The next thing I wanted to ask you is if you're thinking about caloric restriction. Are you doing any sort of calorie counting?
Yeah, so I hate calorie counting. So I'm doing two things
If
so
only
that I
there
don't
was
have to
an
calorie
app
count.
to make it easier.
Yes, exactly. Um, the first is you can be fancy and call it intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, but I'm just skipping breakfast.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm having black coffee for breakfast, and that works out great. There are studies which may show some difference over calorie restriction, but essentially skipping a meal just leads to calorie restriction, and so there's essentially no difference. Some of these longer fasts they may have unique benefits, but time restricted eating generally is perfectly safe and is approximately equivalent to calorie restriction. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's good too because then it's so much less work to
Yeah.
be logging every single thing that you're eating. If you just build the habit of, oh, for breakfast I just have black coffee and nothing else. That's easier than what you're doing before. You're not having to make sugary cereal or whatever. You don't have to take it out of the fridge, and on the back end you don't have to be buying the cereal and making sure that you have milk, and then there's always a different amount of cereal and milk, so you always have more of one than the other.
Right.
As a kid, sometimes when I run out of milk, I would make cereal with juice, and it was terrible.
Oh,
It was
gross.
so bad. Anyway, yeah. So like having the habit of just like you're not eating breakfast is so much easier to do, and probably gets you, I don't know, at least 80% of the benefit you would get if you were strictly counting calories. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's about where I landed too in my journey with this. I calculated roughly what the calories were for a few of the meals that I ate, just so I got like a rough calibration and was able to rule out, oh my gosh, like this banana peanut butter coconut milk smoothie I'm making in the morning is like 1,000 calories, but it's 1,000 calories because I'm using coconut milk. If I just swap out the coconut milk for a different milk, now it's a more reasonable. I think it's like 400 calories. Okay, so I can
Yep.
let's make that adjustment, and then I don't really have to think about it. I'll do intermittent fasting and just have a vague sense of, oh, mayonnaise is 100 calories per tablespoon. I could eat 1,000 calories of mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise. I could eat 1,000 calories of mayonnaise like easily without thinking about it. So let me be more mindful of the amount of mayonnaise I'm using. Okay, cool. And then the second pillar. So that was all kind of nutrition and what you're eating and drinking. The second pillar of this and of any sort of weight loss or health style thing is exercise and activity. You built the climbing wall. What else are you doing exercise wise?
So, interesting thing about exercise is that it probably doesn't matter for weight loss, which is very interesting. But it definitely matters for heart health and general long-term health. Well, okay, there's two parts of exercises, like aerobic and anaerobic, or like the climbing wall bit. I'm doing more resistance. So first of all, I'm doing more resistance stuff like body weight squats, push-ups, and then the climbing wall stuff because I don't want to lose muscle mass while dieting. So that's important, is to up your resistance training. Okay. And then I'm also doing essentially more walking, so that my labs get better, my blood sugar and cholesterol gets better, and like generally for heart health. But walking won't make you lose weight probably. But so I am doing more, but more for health reasons than weight loss reasons.
Cool. Yeah, walking and strength training is also where I landed with that. Doing more. I think that the mantra I heard is you can't out exercise a bad diet. And that really hit home for me when I was on an exercise bike and tracking the calories with the Apple Watch, and it took me like 10 or 15 minutes to burn 100 calories. And it's like I gotta go out and like be wearing the right clothes, and like it's not easy to burn 100 calories on a bike. And the whole time I was thinking like, this is a tablespoon of mayonnaise that I'm working towards right now. How much easier would it be if I just didn't eat a tablespoon of mayonnaise? I could totally get for like the type A personality that like has to have their whatever. You can't not eat the food that you would want to do more aerobic stuff. But yeah, the diet's a much easier lever.
Yeah, so it's even worse than that too, because there have been studies that have shown essentially as you do more and more exercise, your body gets more and more efficient, and so you burn less calories per unit of exercise.
That's interesting.
And so so you really they've studied one examples of the studies these tribes in Africa which have like 5 times the exercise that we do, just day-to-day life, and they don't burn 5 times the calories. They burn maybe slightly more than we do, because your body's just way more efficient.
That's how I would want it to work. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good job, bodies.
So
yeah, and then what you said about not losing muscle makes a lot of sense too. And strength training seems to be the best way to do that. It seems like decomposing, autophagy, this idea that your body goes into metabolism where it's eating itself, which is what you want for weight loss. I think muscle is more bioavailable to break down than fat. So if you're still telling your body that you need the muscle, it doesn't break that down and targets more of the fat. Does that track?
So this also, and I haven't looked this up as much, but I think this depends on how much extra fat you have to lose. So if you're more overweight, then fat is easier. As you get closer to your body weight, they're more equal, or muscle may even be easier.
Okay.
And that's why if you're near your ideal weight and you're losing a lot of weight, you got to really make sure it's not muscle.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But when you're really overweight, your body's just like, get rid of this fat, especially like internal organs, which is the good fat to get rid of. It's the bad fat for you. Your body gets rid of that first, generally.
Cool.
I think
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we've landed in very similar positions with this.
Yeah.
Neat. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say there is one thing which I'm doing, which I know you're not doing, and you have brought up before, which is I'm eating mostly plants. And I think you have tried keto or something like that.
Yeah. I also tried the all meat diet, and that was wild. And I think I'm moving away from that. I think Michael Pollan's book, Eat Food Mostly Plants, Not Too Much. I think that's I think that's probably right. It's tough though that it's tough that there's. I hear arguments that are appealing to me of like why eating plants might not be good. The argument of the all meat diet is that plants don't want you to eat them, and their defense is a purely chemical one. Animals don't want you to feed them.
Cows.
They don't, but their defense isn't a chemical one. It's like they're going to try to run away from you after you've caught them or tricked them into living in slavery and terrible. I'm not going to get into that. Then the meat is bioavailable and it's much easier fuel. But there's like a lot of toxins that come in the plants. But then the counter argument to that I've heard is actually the toxins are kind of good for you. You want your body to go through some stress. You don't want just like the easiest soupy stuff to be injected right in your veins. Like humans in general work the best when they're challenged, when they're going through some sort of struggle. So you want the same sort of thing for your digestive system. You don't want to just like inject glucose into your veins. That's terrible for you. So I think that's probably right. That's kind of where I've landed, that keto's too extreme. The whole meat diet, all meat diet is definitely too extreme. Something more akin to like Mediterranean diet, Whole30, eat food mostly plants, not too much. That's probably right. And I still feel frustrated that there's not like an answer. That what I would love is just Soylent, but scientifically verified that like this is the best thing for you that is going to help you live the longest. If someone could give me that product, that's all I would eat. And I would have exceptions if I'm going out to a nice meal or celebrate. I like the way you're framing that you have environmental exceptions. I would still do that, but like if I could just not think about food again and just have whatever, a powder or a frozen drink or something that's just all the food I eat, I would love to do that. And it seems like we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're definitely not there yet. For a couple reasons. So that I'll say the reason I'm doing plants is two reasons. One is you can eat like as many plants as you want. And I hate calorie counting. I hate not feeling full. And so today I had this huge plate of sweet potatoes and beans and mangoes and some grain and broccoli, all covered in guacamole and salsa. That
sounds great.
And like it was huge. Yeah. I'm not missing anything. I don't miss the meat. It's so calorically dilute. I can eat an entire plate of it and not gain the weight. Actually lose a lot of weight. So that's mainly why I'm doing it. But also because my family history is of heart disease and diabetes. Yeah. And we have very long-term studies which show that plant-based diets are protective against those. For meat-based diets, we simply don't have the long-term data yet because Atkins has been around, since maybe the 70s or 80s? So, like, we don't have people who have lived to 100 who have eaten just meat, except for there's a few tribes around, right? But I'm not part of those tribes. Right. So, that doesn't apply to me. And so we have a lot of long-term studies of plant-based eating being protective against the things that I know have killed my relatives. And so that's why I'm doing that. The second thing I'll say is we only have population studies. So maybe a meat-based diet is okay for some people. It's certainly not okay for some other people, say people who, high saturated fat leads to more heart attacks. Like I know my family. So, but I'm so basically I have to pull the population studies that are most applicable to me, even knowing there's variation in there, if that makes sense. So like, yeah, so it's hard to show things in population studies, and so you have to be careful because it's your body. So you got to do what you think is best for your body.
I feel like the most rigorous approach to this is what the founder of Braintree is doing. Have you seen him on YouTube? His channel started growing. So he founded Braintree, sold it for in the hundreds of millions, and is working on some interesting stuff in brain neural interfaces. But it seems like the main thing he's focused on is trying to live as long as possible. And the way that he goes about it is like, so he's got hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So he spends something like $2 million a year on a team of medical advisors and coaches and lab tests and a bunch of medical gear to try to figure out for him and his body what is reversing or slowing aging the fastest. And they're doing it like based on his blood work and based on his body fat percentage and based on mitochondrial, measuring the length of telomeres and a bunch of other fancy stuff. And that seems like the best thing to do, like with infinite resources. You wouldn't be looking at population data. You'd be looking at, okay, for me in particular, how is eating entirely meat or eating entirely vegetables impacting the markers that are most likely going to lead to cardiovascular disease or diabetes or heart disease. But we can't do that.
Right.
So it seems like probably the best bet is go off of the markers that we have. It sounds like you got blood work done. I think that's a pretty good proxy. They get you a lot of information. And then, go off of population data, see what's worked for people in the past. And, seems like probably eating mostly plants is the way to go. Are you doing entirely vegetarian or a small amount of meat?
So at home, I've been trying, during weight loss mode, I'm trying to stick as close to vegan as possible. And vegan is a very overloaded word. Whole plant foods. So you can, like, Oreos are vegan. I'm not eating Oreos. I'm eating chickpeas and black beans and sweet potatoes and broccoli and that kind of stuff. When I was out, I was just camping this weekend. So I had, meat-based chili and a hot dog. And so I'm not being religious about it. I'm trying to eat mostly plant foods at home. Mostly, honestly, because I can eat as much as possible, as much as I want and still lose the weight. They're just so calorically dilute. That's why I'm doing it, because I don't want to count calories. Where I don't want to be like, I only ate a half an egg today, you know, that feels really bad. And so I'm just cutting them out entirely, and I actually don't miss them on my day-to-day yet. I probably will in a month or so, and that's when I will start introducing them back in. But so far,
that sounds right. Anecdotally, a close friend of mine, the magician Drake, we've talked about him several times on this podcast. He's vegan, and he is one of the fittest people I know in our age range. Part of that, I think, is that he's just super active. He's hauling something like 400 pounds of props across the country and across the world, actually, just routinely. And he books it through the airport. I traveled with him once. He's going faster than me with just my backpack with 400 pounds of these huge gun cases is what he travels with, because that's the best protective thing for his props. Just booking it through airports. It's incredible. But then he also eats entirely plant-based, and I think he also eats fish, but he may have cut fish out recently. And that's the way that he's eaten, I think, his entire life, since he was a kid. And he looks great. So that's, it tracks for me that that's the right way to eat. And I feel frustrated that I can't say objectively, this is definitely the best thing for me. I aspire to be more rigorous in that.
So I could share a whole bunch of resources if you care. But during my 3 weeks of research, this is what I've come up with that leads me to believe it is perfectly healthy and to lose weight, and even for the long term. If you do go fully vegan, by the way, you do need to supplement B12. That's the only supplement you need. Make sure you get enough B12. Otherwise, you should be good to go. But
cool. Noted. Did you use ChatGPT in doing your research?
Nope. I used a lot of YouTube. I like watching YouTube. You have to be very careful on YouTube because people say whatever they want for the clicks. So the other thing I used, which we talked about before, is PubMed.gov. You can find almost any of these studies that the YouTubers talk about. You can find on PubMed.gov. And it's really helpful to actually read the paper and see what they say. Oftentimes they will wait, like, for the views, people will way overinflate the conclusions. It's like the conclusion might be this was statistically significant, but only by only change things a little bit, and they'll blow it way out of proportion, saying whatever.
Here's the one secret that doctors don't want you to know about. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like this changed it by 3%.
Right.
Well, great. Yeah. So yeah, always go back to that. It's also really helpful for stuff like so my wife has been having knee pain recently, and she heard on some random website that maybe walking backwards for 10 minutes a day might help, and I'm like, that sounds weird. But I looked at PubMed.gov and I said walking backwards knee pain, and there was several different papers that basically showed for osteoarthritis, which we're not sure if she has or not, but that walking backwards 10 minutes a day did help. And so why not? So try that, and it's not like it's going to hurt you probably. But there is some scientific, actual things. So, yeah, it's very interesting what you can find on PubMed.
That's a very good method, and I would strongly recommend the next time you do this sort of research project to try out ChatGPT, because ChatGPT knows about everything on PubMed. Sarah was using this for a graduate research paper that she did, and she would ask it questions, and it was a very collaborative process. But like, it's able to something you might have put into ChatGPT is like just asking it. My wife heard that walking backwards for 10 minutes can reduce knee pain. Is this true? And if so, can you cite any scientific literature? And it'll give you an answer in plain English and cite scientific literature. And sometimes it makes up the references.
I was going to say, is this like the lawyer who, you just see that?
No.
This lawyer used ChatGPT to file a motion or something in federal court, and it completely made up sources. And the court was like, we can't find these case studies. There are these case source numbers. And so he had ChatGPT generate the cases and return it.
Okay. That's fraud?
But yes. Yes, it is. His defense was that he thought ChatGPT was a research tool. He didn't know it would make stuff up. And I'm like, yeah.
He's dumb.
But he's a lawyer. Yeah. He should know this.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, anyway.
AI is not.
So be careful.
AI right now is an Iron Man suit. So yeah, you gotta bounce on. Yeah. But if you have that in mind and you know that it is prone to making stuff up, so like double check the key sources that actually exist. But then you can ask it like, can you summarize this paper for me? And you can ask it specific questions about like, whatever the question your wife has of should I be barefoot? Is it better to do this inside or outside? It's able to summarize the data and come up with plausible sounding answers. And sometimes it makes them up. But if you know that and are double checking the important stuff, that's a key use case of how I'm using it. I'm using ChatGPT, by the way, like minimum of 6 times a day for development questions, for questions about my life, for drafting blog posts, for it's almost entirely replaced Google for me and is giving me much better, more actionable, more personal information. It's amazing. It's been life-changing. Very strong evangelist of this tool. Like, if you're not using it, that's bad. This is a life-changing upgrade to your potential as a person.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not using it that much, so I should probably try more. But yeah.
I have one more question on this thread, and then we're running out of time, and I have so much stuff to talk about.
Sorry. Yes, nutrition is a big.
It's good.
Topic.
Yeah. I'm curious about what the moment was that inspired you to make this huge life change. Was it getting blood work done? What?
A few things. So I've done this before. I was at 230 before, and I went back down to 200. But I regained it all back in a few years. That's like that's why I'm focused on more long-term changes now. Like, I really like this environment-focused approach where I don't even have it in the house, but I can eat it outside. That right now, to me, feels really good. So that was part of it. Blood work was a big part of it. So my triglycerides last time were sky high, and we can talk I have a whole other talk about LDL cholesterol and triglycerides and all this stuff I could tell you all about if you want. But generally, having those high is a bad idea, especially if your family has a history of heart disease and diabetes. So they were sky high, and my doctor was going to recheck. I'm actually being rechecked in 3 weeks, so it's been a few months. And so that was a big driver too. I want to drive those down. I don't want to go on crazy medications, although I'm on a statin now because of cholesterol. But anyway, so that was another one. And then it was actually the climbing wall, which got me more interested. So I was like, think I can build a climbing wall, and I'm like, oh, I'm terribly out of shape. And so I actually use the climbing wall as motivation to jumpstart this thing. I think it's really important to have a motivation, and mine was I actually want to be able to climb better. And so that's what I pictured, not my blood work, not other things, when I got this started. So yeah, I think finding a motivation like that was super important.
That's good.
To get started.
That's funny. That was also part of my motivation to do this. I realized in the Sarah and I and some of her friends went to a climbing gym recently, and I have in my head the sort of climber I am and the sort of moves I'm able to do, and I just wasn't able to hit that.
Yeah.
Like it was just gravity was just pulling me down a little more than it should have. And the best body type to have as a climber is like you want a really high strength to body weight ratio. So it's like the best climbers in the world, Adam Ondra, Alex Arnold, are all these very lean, relatively short men who just have all of the weight on their body is muscle. And that's a desirable body type for me. I would like to have that kind of body. So yeah, and then climbing in itself is super fun. It's like exciting and lots of metaphors in there for just life of climbing higher and doing things that you didn't think were possible and like taking things one step at a time. Yeah, it's a fun sport. I was going to ask you also if you've ever been outdoor climbing.
So in Boy Scouts, I did that a couple of times, but no, I'm just interested in gym climbing. Although if I do it long enough, I know I'll be interested in outdoor climbing.
I have a quick sales pitch for you. Outdoor climbing.
All right.
Outdoor climbing is incredible. It's the difference between running in a gym on a treadmill and hiking outside. It's like they're related in that you're doing the same sort of physical things, but it's a different experience. And you do the running inside on a treadmill to enable you to hike outside. It's like I see the world differently now, having done outdoor climbing. Like you look up at a mountain when you're driving on the highway, and you're finding routes of like, oh, I could climb that, and I think you would like it so much because there's also this technical aspect to it. Oh, the gear, and you would get so into the gear, and all the gear has numbers on it of like the ratings and how many kilonewtons it can hold, and there's very complicated techniques and like the type of rope you need, and you gotta practice the knots of the right way to tie the knots, and there's all these safety checks and procedures, and it's a blast. And then it's like there are legitimately terrifying moments where rationally, you just clipped in and you know that if you fall, it's going to make roughly this many kilonewtons, and all the gear is rated for like 50 times more than that. But like you're looking down and it's like thousands of feet down. Thousands? Thousand? I think thousands.
If you're doing Yosemite, yeah, it's like 3,000 feet.
Yeah. I've never climbed anything
but
that high.
I would never do anything like that. Yeah.
You say that, but like I didn't think I could either. And a buddy of mine from college, his name's Luke, got me into this, and like it's incredible. It's amazing. Like, and then to look back down after you've climbed it and look at this, like it looks impossible, but you did it. Like the sense of accomplishment I feel, and the pushing myself mentally and physically, and it's like a full body puzzle. And you're connected with nature, like you're up on a rock wall, like on the side of a mountain, and you get to see little microcultures of life and little plants that have found little areas in the rock wall. And you're thinking like, how many people are able to see this, able to do this incredibly impressive physical feat of climbing up to this place, and also having all the gear and experience they need to be able to get up here. Like, it's incredible. Have you seen Free Solo?
Yeah.
Okay. Free Solo is terrifying. Don't do that. But did you feel anything watching Free Solo of like it'd be really cool to do this sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, like in high school, I did get a taste of it, although it wasn't anything like that. I think it was maybe 70 feet up it was top rope, so it was like all the gear was done for you. But it was real rock, and it was fairly easy climbing, but yeah, it felt really good.
I just want to plant that seed. It sounds like what you're doing is working, right, and you're on the right track. But like, I love climbing.
I do need to get much better, because I was way better in high school when I weighed, or at the end of college, I weighed, I think 175. That's basically where I'm trying to get to. That's the middle of healthy range for me. And we'll see. I need to get down there and gain more muscle before I would feel confident.
Okay. Sounds good. That's interesting that 175 is a healthy range for you. I think when I looked at it, I thought 170 was a healthy range for me, but you're several inches taller than me, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it's like 150 to 180 or something like
Okay.
that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that right? I thought so.
I'll look that up again. I think I maybe I think what I've taken away from this conversation is I could be losing weight faster, and I could probably be setting more ambitious goals for myself of like how much I would weigh. Cool.
Yeah, at 6'1", a 140 to 180 is solidly healthy range.
40?
That's what it says.
140
That would be a
pounds for
stick.
6'1"? That seems
That's what it.
that seems too small.
That's what it says.
Can you look up what it says for
Yeah.
5'9"?
Yeah, sure. Hold on. I just said
140 pounds if you're 6'1".
5'9", 130 to 160.
130 to 160. Okay. Interesting.
I mean, so the other thing about these charts is they are population charts.
Yeah.
And so your ratio of fat to muscle makes a huge difference. Your like lots of things make a huge difference. So that also may have been for women. It didn't say men or women on there, but
Okay.
that's different too. So I'm not a doctor.
Okay.
Don't come after me.
I think I want to weigh like a muscular 170. I think that's my goal.
I know I feel pretty good at 175, so that was my goal. Yeah.
Okay.
175 to 180.
Cool. I look forward to meeting you in the 170 range.
Excellent.
All right. Transitioning into some of my stuff. Anything else on the health, nutrition, exercise?
No, we talked about that for way too long. I'll let you know how it goes over the following months.
Here's my transition from that. I have a fun weight loss tip for you, and it's get food poisoning while you're at a conference.
Oh no!
So I was at Craft and Commerce. Had some really good insights. I'll talk about that next. And the first full day of the conference, we went out to eat, and I think I had a I forgot the name of it. Raw seafood bowl, poke bowl.
Poke.
Yeah, I had a poke bowl,
yeah.
and it was delicious. And the next morning, I felt like a little queasy, so I skipped breakfast. And then later that day, I felt like the conference room was unusually cold, and so I like went outside and tried to warm up in the sun. And then I started feeling kind of really nauseous. And then I went to the bathroom to see what needs to leave my body right now from which end. And I threw up, which I hadn't thrown up in a long time. And I texted Sarah immediately afterwards, like, throwing up sucks. I'm so sorry you went through this the first trimester. She was throwing up like every other day.
Oh no!
And then I felt so much better. And I was like, okay, definitely food poisoning. I feel much better. This is great. And then went to a talk. And then just felt sort of like tired. And I was thinking, let me just go back and take a nap. And I went down and laid down and immediately had a fever. And like joints started aching and headache and neck was sore. And so I was in bed starting from like 1 or 2 p.m. through the entire night and into the next day. And I called my dad and was trying to figure out, like, is this a resurgence of Lyme disease? Because Lyme disease felt a lot like this. And I was just in upstate New York where I got Lyme disease the first time. And he was like, well, let's wait it out and see. Like, you don't see the bullseye rash. We'll find out. The next morning I felt much better, which I didn't in Lyme disease. Like all the aches were much, much worse. So I'm thinking it's food poisoning. But a positive consequence of this is I've lost a lot of weight in the last 3 days because I still feel a little queasy and food just seems unappetizing. And I haven't eaten this is like, it was like a full day. It was the night before and then a full day and then another full day. And now I'm into the next day. So like over a 48-hour fast. I'm having trouble doing the math of hours. But yeah, weighed myself and I'm ahead of schedule and losing a pound a week. And I feel really good, which is strange having not eaten for so long.
Yeah.
Like maybe I just fast and immediately plummet down to the weight I want to get to. And as long as I'm working out and having water and salt, I'll get there the fastest. I'll pause there before I get into the craft and commerce stuff.
Yeah, I'll just say that's awful. Sorry. From a weight loss perspective, I do not recommend this strategy. But also, if you do want to keep the weight off, if you go straight back to your old eating habits, since it is almost all water and glycogen, you'll just gain that straight back. So maintaining a caloric deficit right now is a way to keep that weight off. So if you want to use this as a jump start, then I would say eat some high quality nutrition dense foods, but eat fewer calories.
This would be a really good time, I think, to change my diet into more of a plant-based diet. My body's like it's going to be a restart anyway, no matter what I do. So yeah, this will be a good time to be much more conscious about like what are the foods that I want to be eating. At Craft and Commerce, I had some really good insights. First of all, I think this is a really targeted, directed audience for the sort of person who I want to be building repurpose engine for. Um, the two key insights that I've had so far from thinking about the conversations I had are, first, that another type of repurposing that I can be making from long form content are newsletters and blog posts. That's not something I thought about before, but it's a Craft and Commerce by ConvertKit conference, so everybody there is thinking about newsletters and blog posts. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that, and with LLMs, that's another 2 prompts that I can add to this engine, and I can be doing that for you. That was the first insight. The second insight was, as a source of content, I could also be ingesting courses, because a lot of people there have these longer form courses, want to be doing some sort of marketing off of those. So I can be taking people's courses and feeding those through exactly the same engine and making TikToks and other short form videos from it, and also tweets and blog posts and newsletters. So I feel like I've found a perspective on this problem that I don't think anyone else is taking, that I feel excited about, that I feel excited about the person who I want to help with it. It's creators, it's people who have courses. I loved everyone I was interacting with at the conference. It was fun and exciting, and if I could go to that every weekend, I would. I really enjoyed hanging out with those people. So that felt good. Like that core insight felt worth the whole conference. I have 3 other points on that, but I'll pause there. What are your thoughts on those 2 new sources of output and the new source of input?
Yeah, that's great. I think this is a great way to repurpose what you've already done for Repurpose Engine. Yeah, so creators don't just have YouTube videos. They'll have YouTube videos plus a blog plus a newsletter plus a course plus so the more of that you can ingest and work with, the better, I think. Maybe I should say this question for later, but did you talk to anyone who said they would want something like that? Did this come from like customer type conversations or just general impressions?
I was trying to do like on the fly mom test style interviews. So intentionally not talking about the product and like intentionally not trying to have a conversation that would feel really good for me, but wouldn't be very useful, of like getting them to say that they like my idea and they would buy it. I don't believe you. But what I did hear from a lot of people is they're buying tools like this. People are experimenting with like ChatGPT type stuff. They know that AI is a big thing. They're finding out about new tools like this. I had a lot of conversations where a fantastic question to ask is like, if you hear about a similar tool that they're currently using, asking where they found out about it. Was it from a friend? Was it from some sort of private Facebook group? Was it from this other thing? So from asking that question, I got some leads into like, there's a few private Facebook groups. There's another conference that I hadn't considered called FinCon that's more financial based. It's like, my impression of it is it's creators who are specifically focused on finance. Seems to have a pretty good overlap. I hadn't thought about this before with what I was doing. Also got recommended some Facebook groups to join, and there was one other one. So to answer your question, I didn't push anyone to like, will you buy this? But I feel like from the conversations I was having, I got good feelings and strong signals asking in very indirect ways of like, what are the sort of products that you've bought before? Where are the sort of places where you look for new products? It feels like a tractable market. And I think it feels like I have about as much confidence as I could have without actually doing it and trying to sell a thing. That's how I feel about that.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. It also intuitively makes sense. So I think that's both good signals.
My second main takeaway. So it was interesting because that was sort of focused on me talking with attendees at the level of like, I'm at this conference to talk to other people as potential customers. And then I also had some insights at the level of that I'm the consumer of this conference. One of those was, there were a few different talks that kind of touched on the same idea, but it was this idea of finding a topic that you can be the person for. That like when a topic comes up on the internet, there are people who will immediately think, oh, you're talking about personal finance. The guy for personal finance is Ramit Sethi. So, let me recommend Ramit Sethi to you. And it's crystallized in my head a little bit. I'm still kind of chewing on this, but like I could be the guy for repurposing. I could be the person on Twitter and on the different social networks that whenever the topic of repurposing comes up, there's someone out there who's like, oh, you're thinking about repurposing. You got to check out this guy's stuff. He's got, this blog post specifically on the topic that you're talking about. He has this product for you. He's got a course on how to do repurposing. Like this is the guy for this topic. And I contain multitudes. There's a lot of stuff I'm interested in. And the idea of narrowing my identity to a single way that I can help people, I think feels a little scary. I don't like that, but I also think that's just part of growing up. Like a child has infinite potential. This is like the classic story of Peter Pan. But potential, if it's not realized and directed in a direction and a purpose, is it's unrealized potential, right? Like, if I'm 40 and I'm still kind of, or I don't know, 50 and still dabbling in like, I do a lot of different things. I have the opportunity to hone myself into like, I am the best person in the world to help this particular type of creator repurpose their content. That might just be that I'm afraid of maturing. What are your thoughts on that?
I have near identical feelings. There's two sides. There's personal, and then there's the corporate side of this. The corporate side or the business side is exactly the same as in freelancing. People, when I used to do more freelancing, they would ask me, should I be a generalist or a specialist? And it feels scary to specialize. So like, it feels good to say like, I'm a full stack web developer. I can do whatever you want. Even that's more general or more specific than just developer, but full stack web developer, I can do whatever you want, back and front end, whatever. That's one pitch. The other pitch is, I am a React developer who specializes in making, map pages really fast when you have 1,000 things loaded on it. That's extremely specialized, but the people who need that really need it, and they will pay a lot of money for it. And while it feels like you will have fewer clients, you're only one person. And so you actually end up getting more clients and more quality clients the more you specialize generally in freelance. I think there's a similar corollary here, which is you can do anything, but if you're the anything guy, then people don't come to you for whatever, and you have to fight to get, people. The more you are the whatever guy, the more people will come to your service or your whatever. So from a business side, I see super value in specializing, like very high returns in specializing. But from a personal side, it scares me very much, because what if I get bored of this thing in 2 years? I don't want to be the whatever guy. So I totally get that. Yeah, I don't know the right balance to strike. One is to do more stuff under your brand instead of under your name. That way, if you get bored of it, you can sell it, and whoever buys it can, be the whatever company instead of the whatever guy. The problem with that is that people, especially like smaller purchasers, they buy from people, not from businesses, and so they want to see that there's a respectable person behind the thing doing the whatever. So that's the trick there. So in short, I have no answers. It will almost certainly be better monetarily to specialize, but whether or not that translates into happiness for you is a different story.
I like that perspective. I think you understand my position. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that yet.
Yep.
Okay.
I would at least try it under the brand name. So at least start getting blog posts and stuff out under your brand name. If you hate it in 2 years, you can always sell the company.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is, if you do it under your personal name, I totally get it. It feels like you can't back out of that position then. I totally get that. But if you do it under a brand name, that brand can live on without you.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
That's what I would do to start and see how it feels, I guess.
I'm also thinking about the experience that I have when I have a particular problem and I find someone on Twitter who has the name of that problem in their name, that they're the whatever guy. I feel this confidence and sense of relief of like, oh, good, I found the guy. Here's the person who's going to help me with this thing. And I would like to be able to do that for other people, and maybe that's. I don't know.
So this is the other thing too. What you just described, you found the guy, and they're the guy, and you use the thing. That is probably most common, which means if you want to be the repurpose guy for say 2 years, and then even if you stopped cold turkey and changed your persona, then at least for those 2 years you would be the repurpose guy. And after that, most people who found you wouldn't even know you used to be the repurpose guy. Like your friends and stuff would know that you did this weird shift, and you'd be like, "Why did that happen?" But that's kind of how I feel shifting. I shifted fairly hard from web development into more of the AI stuff, and I'm in the middle of that shift right now. And it was scary because like I had built my entire freelancing reputation on web development, especially React development, and so yeah, it was scary to shift, but it's possible. Like it's not the end of the world if you just completely drop and switch personas like people do all the time.
Yeah, this isn't a trapdoor decision. I can decide in 2 years if I'm like, repurpose. What was I thinking? That was a terrible idea. I can take the audience that I built and swing it into something else. I think there was a talk on this actually that talked about how you can still change directions, and yeah, it's not as scary as it seems. Okay, well, that's an emotion I'm thinking about. What's the next thing? Oh, I was struck by the positioning of ConvertKit, the way that Nathan Barry's positioned the company in a very crowded marketplace, right? This is MailChimp. This is GoDaddy, I think, has their own email service. It's a bunch of like big corporate companies. And he's carved out this business that's making, I think he said at the conference, something like $4 million a month, which is just so much money to me. I'm sure on the scale of, I'm not sure how much money, MailChimp is making. Probably an order of magnitude more than that or something. But like the way that he's positioned himself in the market, he is the best solution for creators to run their business predominantly on email. And everything about the business is supporting that. He, at the conference, launched this new platform that came out of an acquisition where creators can now make money by referring people who sign up for their list to other people's lists. A fantastic idea, and that's totally aligned with what ConvertKit is as a company. And it's not something that MailChimp would have done, because MailChimp doesn't have this alignment of they're not making a product for the same sort of person. Yes, you can get the same job done, but I really liked just what I felt about the way that they're solving this problem, which like it sends email, right? Like it's not crazy. Right. It's you type up stuff and you have an email list and you send out the email. But it makes $4 million a month. And it makes $4 million a month, I think, because it has a tight alignment with knowing who the person is and helping them with the problems that they have. And you can feel that when you go there. Like they had swag that said, "I'm a creator" or something. They know what these people are calling themselves, and they know what they want and need and the pains that they feel, and they're able to address that. So I think it hammered home for me this idea that even in a marketplace where there's a lot of people approaching this problem of how to repurpose long-form video in different ways, I can be the ConvertKit of the repurposing space. And that I felt a much stronger confidence of like, this isn't so scary that there's a ton of competitors, because I have my unique take on this. I have a particular type of person who I'm wanting to help with this. And that, I feel an increased sense of confidence that I'm moving in the right direction with this project.
Yep. It's good. It sounds like it was positive for you despite the food poisoning.
Yes. I feel a little sad that I missed a day of it, but it couldn't have happened any other way. That's how it happened. So it's okay. We are at an hour. Are you okay going longer? I have a lot more to talk about.
All right, sure. Is there anything you can cut for next time, or?
I mean, I can, but it's stuff that happened. I don't know. I'd like to talk about it now.
Okay.
Listeners, are you okay?
Keep going.
Are you okay going a little longer? Can't hear them.
I heard a lot of yeses.
Cool. So the last time we talked, I had devised this scheme for myself of backwards planning FileInbox, and fantastic exercise. Went through like, okay, from launching the new serverless thing that I've been stuck on for years. We've talked about it. I think we talked about it in like the first or second episode of this podcast. I'm still doing it. And it was very clarifying seeing all that. And then I took that plan, estimated how much time it would take, multiplied those time estimates by 2, and then put that on a calendar in reverse order. And that gave me a nice little to-do list with a nice little schedule, which I printed out. And for anyone watching this on video, you can see right here. Look at that. There's the whole list. There's a
Nice.
table on top because it was hanging on my wall. And a couple days after starting this, the very first thing to do was finish the Google Drive integration. So all the same stuff you can do for Dropbox, but on Google Drive. 2 days into that, I estimated it would take a day to finish that. 2 days into it, I was still working on it. And the next thing to do was finish theming. And theming I thought would take me a day, so budgeting 2 days. And 2 days after that, I was still working on it. And then still working on Google Drive, the very first thing. And then flew with Sarah to my cousin's wedding in New York. And so my work capacity was limited, but we were still working. Sarah was up there working, so, worked for a couple days. While I was up there, I had scheduled that I would finish the internationalization integration that I thought would take half a day, so I budgeted a day. And then I thought I would finish the forms, which is like half a day. And I'm still working on the Google Drive integration. And then the next day, I wanted to remake the passcode feature. You can passcode protect different pages. Still working on Google Drive. And then I took a few days off because I went to visit my grandparents and my uncles. And then I went to the conference. And so now here we are, I don't know, a quarter of the way down this page. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 features that I thought would be done with by now. And the Google Drive is still not done. So that's where I am. I'm making progress on it. It's just a lot more complicated than I thought. So I think this is me learning to be a better project manager, better estimating time. I thought I was being very conservative with, first of all, my time estimates, and then also multiplying it by 2. I was like, well, surely it won't take this long. And I'm even skipping weekends. I'm even saying, recognizing I'm not going to work on the weekends. But I think the failure here was underestimating the complexity of the integration, and also not taking into account travel, the severity that travel would have on what I was getting done. And I didn't even include the conference on here. I assumed that the days I was at the conference, I would just keep working, I guess. So that was a mistake. So I this is all good things. I'm learning more about how I get work done and how I can be better estimating it. And it has been enlightening to see how my actual path has deviated from the plan, even on the very first step. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly why I push you to have a plan, because if you didn't have the plan, you'd just be like, oh, I'm working on Google Drive, and it'd be difficult to know, exactly how long or whatever. So now you can see exactly on paper how long it's taken. The second thing I'd say, though, is that of features, integrations are, historically for me at least, are notoriously extremely difficult and take way more time than you think. Integrations are probably the number one thing that I'm underestimated as well, because you don't know until you get into it what you don't even know, right? So I hope that the rest of your features that are non-integration based will be able to go more smoothly, more closely.
Yeah, thank you. I think so too, for exactly the same reasons. I think I was feeling optimistic about this one because I'd already done it with the Rails app. So I was thinking I'm just going to reintegrate this. And I've fallen into a few pits of wanting to do it the right way so that future integrations are going to go much easier. So I have this beautiful system set up now where to make my third integration after Dropbox and Google Drive, I basically just need to write a single file that has this interface of, here's the name of the method that you authenticate with, and here's the name of the method that you fetch account data with, and here's the method that you transfer files with. And it all has standard input and output. Beautiful system. So I feel very proud of myself for putting this together. And this was a big source of stress for me with the Rails code base. So I feel confident that this is work that needs to be done. I just underestimated the complexity of it. So yeah, okay. I think other things are going to go much faster.
Okay. I would say then, whenever you finish this, just take all your dates and move it forward.
Yeah.
If you find the next feature also takes a long time, then maybe you have to expand your calendar a bit. Yeah. But I would try to see this pattern in at least 2 or 3 features before you despair.
Okay. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's a good next thing to talk about? Okay. We're going to go on a little journey here, but it's going to swing back. The executive assistant that I was talking about hiring, Jasmine, fantastic hire. One of the best decisions I've made. She's great. A night and day difference between working with Rachel, who was working with the through the agency. And I talked about this before, but I think just because of how the incentives were aligned, because it was a flat rate contract that she works up to 20 hours a week, I felt much more of the responsibility of like pushing tasks to her instead of her pulling tasks off of my plate. Jasmine, the situation we have is I pay her hourly. If she's not able to find 20 hours of work, she doesn't get paid for 20 hours of work. She's much more proactive about it. She's taken a lot of stuff off. She's very ambitiously like I was talking with her about mom test style interviews, and she's digging for like what can I be doing more of in that process, and what's the book, the mom test, can I order that book, is that a business expense? So she has the book now, she's reading it, and I feel confident that like I think she could get to a point where she could be conducting these interviews
Cool.
with me, or like in replacing me. So like that, I'm starting to feel these little tastes of, ooh, this is like the engine's moving, that the business could be growing just because of the systems that I've set in place of like, I've hired this person to be able to conduct the interviews, to be able to get the insights, to be able to choose the direction of what the product is. So along those same lines, this has me feeling very optimistic about hiring a React developer. I've got this huge list of like the things that need to get done in FileInbox. It'd be great if I could find someone like Jess and they could be working on it with me in parallel. And having gone through a hiring process with Jasmine of following, basically my method was just notice how I feel when I'm interacting with this person in the interview and ask them questions just to get them talking, and but like see how I feel. And
Sure.
that led me to a fantastic hire that I'm really happy about. So my rough plan with finding a React developer is I'm going to have some interviews and just notice how I feel when I'm interacting with this person. And if I could find someone that I could pay $1,000 a month, I think is roughly my budget right now. I'm flexible on what the number of hours they are, depending on how much they charge per hour. But I'm just going to experiment. It's going to be a, $1,000 experiment. I'm just going to see, what does this look like? Because the thing with Jasmine went so well. My appetite is wet. Unlike my physical appetite for food right now, my appetite for hiring people is voracious. Like it would feel really cool to be able to have that same sort of interaction I'm having with Jasmine, but code gets written. What are your thoughts on that?
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like it went really well. I think that's totally a valid way to hire, especially because you're doing contractors, so it's also easy to just not renew their contract. Like worst case, you're out a few months or something. Yeah. Also because generally, like, people have a hard time of faking that sort of genuine, like, you feeling good about them. Like, that's hard to fake, even in just a small interview, except I will say for salespeople. Be very careful if you ever hire salespeople this way. We did this once, and they're all good at talking. They're all very good at making you like them, because that's what makes them good as a salesperson. Yeah. And so it's extremely difficult to hire salespeople that way, in my experience. But everyone else, I think is a pretty valid way to hire. So, I'm excited to see how your developer works out. At only $1,000 a month, I would worry you would get people who are either too junior, want to do too few hours, or international, which can be great. I would encourage you to overlap time zones, though. But those would be my concerns there. Have you thought about that?
Yes, and I don't know what to do about it. I intentionally tried to frame the offer in a way that higher level people might still be interested in. Like there are situations that I could imagine where I would want to work for $1,000 a month. I wouldn't be working for very many hours, but like that would be worth my time to do that for certain situations. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I would say as long as you recognize that, if you hire a senior person, make sure you have tasks that can be done, that are very well specified, that can be done in short bursts of time.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. If you have a more junior person, they'll have more hours, but you have to be either more of a mentor figure or extremely detailed in ways that help junior people, which is different than senior people.
Yeah.
So I would just be careful of that.
Okay. Noted. Yeah. I'm curious what the back and forth is going to look like. I'm going to need to think of, I've never worked at a real job, right? I've and when I've worked for other people, I've worked solo. So there's a lot of systems I think I'm going to need to learn on the fly. Of code review, I think, is a thing. That's a term I've heard before, where we're gonna have to figure out, how do I review the code that this person's written, and scan it for security flaws, and what does that feedback look like of, I asked them to do a thing and they did it, and I don't like what they did. How do I communicate that? I probably don't want to just redo it and tell them they're bad. I think that would be not good. Yeah. I hear you on overlapping time zones. I think my expectation is to have like a roughly half-hour meeting with them per week, just to touch base and like review the stuff they've done and clarify stuff I'd like them to do.
If they're more senior, I think that's fine. If they're a little more junior, one thing that I've seen work really well, if you have the time for it, is start by, like, the first month is pair programming where they watch you, essentially. The second month is pair programming where you watch them, basically. And then from there, you can, after you get a feel for each other, very high bandwidth communication where you're like on for, the whole time, then you can start shifting to more asynchronous communication or like a checkup meeting.
Okay.
I've seen that work really well, but it takes more time up front.
Okay. Yeah, that's a higher investment than I was framing, but I could see that working out really well for the right sort of person. My dream is to be able to have this set up in a way where code is getting productively written just by me sending a message to a person, because mentally framing myself with a newborn, I probably won't have the time to do like the deep work and the deep focus that I love doing, but that would need to be done to be able to code. So if stuff can still be pushed forward on the code front, depending on the time zone, like while I'm sleeping, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think the two ways are hire someone senior right out the gate, or invest in a more junior person now, so that when you do have a baby, you can do that. Like, they know your code base very well and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. I love teaching. I'm totally open to, for a bright junior developer who knows a little bit of React, like teaching them the ways that I do things. Also with ChatGPT, I feel like the game's totally changed. Like, it's a little dangerous, but a junior developer can have the output of a senior developer if they have the right oversight, I guess. Yeah. If the systems are in place, I think, like, if we settle on some sort of thing of, I use ChatGPT to write the test cases maybe, and then they write the code, that would be a little too involved for me, though, because writing the test cases can sometimes be just as complicated as doing the thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. It's an exploration. It's an experiment. Yeah. I'm sure I'll do it wrong the first time. Probably. But I'd like to be moving in that direction. So, yeah, that's cool. That's my update on that front. At the same time that I'm doing that, I have another consulting job, which, I just remembered. I'm not supposed to talk about that yet. So I'll table that. I'll table that for next time.
All right.
But I thought it was ironic that, like, I'm hiring and being hired out. It just feels like a funny thing.
I did that too. I hired an employee while working, but
cool.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense. Okay, last thing, and then we can't talk about the Apple Vision Pro if you want, since we've already gone over. But the thing I want your feedback on is, I had this idea of taking projects that I'm potentially interested in and finding creators who have an audience that would really fit that product. So, like, for the finance tracker that I've been chewing on, what if I went to, like, Ramit Sethi or some other person in the finance space and said, hey, how would you like Ramit Sethi's finance tracking app? And here's roughly what I'm thinking about it. And I read your book and summarized it from ChatGPT and, like, asked ChatGPT what sort of application you would want to make. And here's roughly what I'm thinking. How would you like to partner on this? And I don't know, we split the revenue or I'm not sure what that would look like, but I'm curious on your hot take of that general concept, and if you have any thoughts on, like, how that offer might be framed to the person with the audience.
Yeah. So first of all, someone like Ramit Sethi, who has a team, is probably zero interest in that from someone on the outside. He probably wants to control exactly what goes out under his name, and he already has a team to do it. So I think you'd have to go down the ladder, like people who don't have teams or, like that type of thing. That's my guess, but who knows? Maybe you email him and it actually turns out to be the case that he does want that, but I doubt it.
Yeah, he's
but
elevated. He's stepped up a rung in the fame list. His show right now
Yep.
on Netflix, I don't know if you've seen, is like one of the top watched shows on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw the first one. It's kind of an interesting premise where he goes to actual people with actual finance troubles and works it out, right? Yeah. So I watched the first one. Seemed interesting.
Captivating. But he's like a legit celebrity now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, he has whole production teams working on stuff.
Yeah.
So if I went down and found someone who did not have a whole production team, then if I imagine myself as that person, what I would want to see is what have you done before, especially who you've worked with before, which might be tricky. So you may need to start with people you already know. That's my guess. So if you know, or I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. That was my initial.
I have directly emailed Ruben Sethi in the past. We were talking about repurposing stuff. He didn't use my thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You could try again then. Sure, why not?
I know people that know him. Okay.
The other thing is, if you are working on a repurpose engine and you're trying to upgrade FileInbox to serverless and have taken many days,
Total distraction.
Feature,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is it a distraction?
No question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would be careful what you wish for with emailing people. Yeah.
Yes. We're in fantasy land right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's an idea out there for anyone. Yeah. Take Christian's idea.
Please.
Email people and be like, do you want a thing?
What's the sort of offer that you think would be attractive to someone that has an existing audience? And I recognize the way to like actually get this information, I think, would be to do mom test style interviews on.
I mean, probably. I would not email them and just be like, do you want a thing? Because that means nothing to people. Like people email people like that all the time. If you made a demo or you made mock-ups or something like that and said, this is what I envision it could look like, are you interested in talking about how we might partner with this? That's probably what I would lead with. Make sure you have something to show them, not just, I want to make you an app, because that means nothing.
What would you expect financially as someone with an audience? Would you expect like splitting revenue 50?
Yeah, if it has their name on if it has their name on it, splitting at least profits, maybe revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, 50-50 probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people like that are used to getting 80%, or no split at all. Like they're used to paying developers some amount and then getting 100%. So
yeah,
you got to be better than that somehow.
Yeah. Okay. Something to chew on. Would you like to talk about the Apple Vision Pro or save it for next time?
Just we had a few thoughts. Sure, we can talk about it a little bit. Why not?
We're already over. It's fine.
Yeah. My initial thoughts was it looks very interesting, but since no one has long-term use of it yet, and we don't even have like videos of people using it yet, I don't know how it's better long-term than like an Oculus. Like, yes, the specs are better. Yes, you can read text, which is very interesting, but I just don't know what I think about it until people get more experience with it. So that was my take. That's fair.
I think the killer technical feature of it for me is the crazy resolution. My understanding is it's the highest resolution of any VR or AR headset that's ever been made. Interesting though, in hearing about people who have tried it, which I think right now the only people from the public that have tried it at an Apple's event for only half an hour or something. They're not saying it's the same or better resolution of looking at a TV. They're just saying they're impressed by it and the text is readable. I would love to try this in person. There is a device that looks like this that would become a device that I would just use every day. That would be part of my general workflow. If I could take my laptop, although this thing has an M2 chip in it, so if it could just be functioning like my laptop, if I can get a decent text editor in there and get a terminal, although that's extremely hard to do with iPad-like devices, which it looks like this is going to be. But if I could do that, like, okay, amazing. I can take this thing, throw it in my backpack, and now I'm not just taking my workstation with me. I'm taking my office with me. If I could take this and I was thinking at first it would be great to have virtual monitors, but I don't really want virtual monitors. I want to be able to just take application windows and put those anywhere in 3D space. So if I could do that and the text is as readable as it is on my Retina display, great. This is what I use now instead of a laptop. I'm extremely excited for it. I would really like to try it, and in this moment I really want one, but I think I'm curious to see what the actual hardware feels like.
I would really want to try it too, especially for $3,500,
Yeah.
which is cheap. It's cheap when you consider high end monitor setups, but extremely expensive when you consider the Oculus, which is like $400.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I talked to earlier was like my eyes get tired after a while in VR, so this is not. I don't think I would want to like work 8 hours a day with the screens an inch from my face. So I'd be very interested to see how eye strain, how people use it and how eye strain is with this compared to other devices.
Putting a strong emphasis on having corrective prescription lenses in it. I think they partnered with Zeiss or someone else. I think that's going to make it easier. And
that could, for sure.
Also, anecdotally, I have had gaming sessions in the Oculus that have lasted like 5 hours. And that's really low resolution. That's I'm not using my glasses in it, so it's a little blurry. But I have a comfortable head strap, and I found an insert in the front that's pretty comfortable. And when I take it off, I've got like this ring around my face, which isn't great. But as a proof of concept of like, can I spend the amount of hours necessary for long stretches of time in VR? For me, the answer is yeah, I definitely can.
Cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Future's here. And oh man, the shot they had in the demo of being on a plane and having the headset on, and then it's like their virtual TV screen. I did that with an Oculus, and it was terrible because it like isn't correcting for the up and down. But in brief moments where the plane was flying steadily and the Oculus wasn't thinking that I was like jumping up in the air 30 feet and then just like catapulting myself out of this virtual movie theater, it was great. It was like I went from being in this cramped economy seat where I'm just feeling the psychic pressure of everyone around me to feeling this like spacious. It completely transformed how I felt about being on that flight, and the idea of taking my entire workstation with me in that environment is like incredible. It's really cool right now. And the thing that I wanted as a child to be able to take my laptop with me, but it's fundamentally different than taking my office with me wherever I go.
Right.
To be able to have the exact environment that, the only thing I need is a chair, and I can be as productive as I am at home. Like that's a dream. That'd be really, really cool. Yeah, I'm excited for the future.
I could see that on planes for sure. Yeah, I was about to say I could see that like on subways and stuff too, but that seems like a terrible idea because you're gonna get that yanked off your head. And, exactly, so fast. Yeah.
If someone tries to drive you on a plane, they can't like run away.
They can't go anywhere. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Yeah. I wonder if you could make trains safer by just locking people in there longer. I'm not sure how that would work. Like long distance,
like a plane, I guess,
are safer. Interesting.
Probably like an Amtrak or something. Yeah, you can't just escape.
Yeah. Cool. Chris, that is all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.